Hey everyone, welcome to another time limit audio edition. This is something we've tested out earlier this week with a little discussion ahead of Wrestle Kingdom, and we're back again this week. Today we're going to be talking about New Japan's New Year Dash event, which just took place on the 5th. It's the night after Wrestle Kingdom. It's the way they sort of shoot a ton of their angles for later this month and for things like that. Because honestly, the New Japan schedule early in 2024 is pretty light, so this is one of those cards where when they want to get a lot of rivalries going, they shoot it on this card. So we're just gonna be going through the card a little bit, talking about the matches, talking about mostly the angles that came from it. I mean, honestly, uh, in my opinion, when you talk about New Year Dash, you're not really talking about the match quality too much. There is one match on here where we'll specifically be getting into the match quality, but most of these matches on New Year Dash, the purpose it serves is to just go right into an angle, so that the match itself isn't really too big of a deal. We're going to start with the top of the card and just sort of go in descending order until we're at the start of the card. The highlight of the card, in my opinion, has to be the main event. We had this surprise team of Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Kazuchika Okada, and Tomohiro Ishii all teaming up to face TMDK's Kosei Fujita, Mikey Nichols, Shane Haste, and Zack Sabre Jr. This matchup, just the surprise element of it was really fun to watch, honestly. And it sort of showcased that one thing that New Japan changed a few years ago, which was a nice change in my opinion, was New Year Dash used to, well, it always has been a surprise, but the way they used to do it is the surprise would sort of end once the show starts because they would announce the entire card at the start of the show. Now they go on like a very extreme version of that where it's like every single match, you don't even get the match everyone in the match like before the entrances. You just like learn as the entrances go along how like what who's going to be in the next match. So it was sort of fun to see the reactions as the wrestlers came out and their entrances happened. This was very similar to last year's Wrestle Kingdom, where the main event was Okada and Kenny Omega teaming up, which is incredibly rare. So, we had this sort of dream team in this match. I saw someone on Twitter made a funny observation that the four people in this match have all recently gone up against each other. Danielson obviously last night wrestled Okada, and Moxley has faced Ishii in a singles match recently. Um, so yeah, this was a fun match. It was a TMDK that earned an upset win in it. This was a great card. This was a great part of the year to sort of do a fun upset. This was a very like fan-friendly show, so this would be the type of card where you can throw an upset like that, like TMDK pinning a sort of overpowered team like this. And they shot two different angles from the outcome of this match. We saw Fujita, Nichols, and Haste challenging Okada and Ishii for the Never Openweight six-man tag belts. The third man in that team being Hiroshi Tanahashi, who wasn't in this match, but their point being that they beat a team that included two-thirds of that team, so they deserve a match. And then we also had Zack Sabre Jr. calling for another match against Danielson. Danielson beat him in October at AEW's Wrestle Dream card. These are two matches that I really enjoy. I mean, not everything that came from this card was something that I enjoyed, and you'll definitely hear about that later. But these two matchups that we heard coming from the main event were ones that I really enjoyed hearing. One thing that I really enjoy about the six-man angle is that you have Fujita involved. He is sort of the water boy of Team DK, considering he is sort of like I guess he's still a young lion, even though he's in a faction. It's kind of weird how that works. Uh, but it is cool to sort of keep him in the developments of the faction instead of just having him there in the background, even though I would argue that having him in TMDK to start has been like a huge boost to him as a wrestler, just like sort of status wise. So it's gonna be interesting to see them challenge for the six-man titles. A lot of the challenging teams for the six-man titles have come from outside of New Japan. That trio has faced an Impact team that was thrown together. They faced Blackpool Combat Club from AEW. So it's nice that they're finally getting an in-house trios team that they can go up against. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson. I mean, I feel like I've run into this issue on the blog so many times before where it's like I'll be talking about a potential Zack Sabre Jr. match or Will Ospreay match, and I just like I really don't feel like I even need to say anything to prove that it would be a great match. This is one of those matches where you put two of like the best guys out there on their respective rosters and match them up. So it's really hard to say anything other than yeah, this would be a great match to see, and we've already seen it before. So there is that proof in that first match that we could see them again, and it would be entertaining. The co-main event of the night, if you want to call it that, was the New Japan crowning their new King of Pro Wrestling championship. This is like King of Pro Wrestling continues to be the weirdest, like not really making sense title in the promotion, because they have this gimmick where I mean, the one thing that I do like about the King Pro Wrestling title is the gimmick where every single time it's defended, it has to be under a certain type of like special match stipulation. Because then you get these fun matches on these smaller New Japan cards, and it just adds a little spice to these shows which are a little less significant. The thing I don't really get is how the title resets every year. So we were crowning our new champion today, and it was Taiji Ishimori who won the title, beating Great Khan, Toru Yano, and Yo. Uh, the stipulation in this match was kind of weird. The way this match worked is it had a 10-minute time limit, and you could score pinfalls or submissions during that time, but it was only the very last pinfall or submission that would be declared the winner. So Ishimori was able to gut out that win. This match, honestly, the stipulation, the crowd didn't really buy into it. The crowd was pretty flat for this entire match. I don't know what it is. I mean, it wasn't that great of a match, but it also just the crowd just didn't seem to care. Uh, and this was just sort of the lowest point of the show, and you had a card where most of the matches weren't really about the matches themselves, and then you threw a match out there where the outcome of the match is the only thing that's important about it, and it just didn't really work too well. I wasn't it didn't click in my opinion, and that's all I really gotta say about it. I'm looking at the lineup right now on Cage Match. I like to use. I know people are kind of iffy about opinions on using Cage Match as sort of like a reference point. That is one of the matches on the card that got I'm looking right here, it got the lowest rating of all the matches, but um, I would definitely agree. It's sitting at a 4.11 right now, and I would probably put my opinion somewhere along those lines. Earlier in the card, we had just five guys, all five of just five guys. So it was Doki, Sanada, Taichi, Taka Michinoku, and Yuya Uemura beating Los Ingobernables, so Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Shingo Takagi, Tetsuya Naito, and Yota Tsuji. This set up a potential rematch between Sanada and Naito after Naito beat Sanada at Wrestle Kingdom the night before. Sanada called for a match, mentioning that they beat them just now, and Naito was he sort of brushed off this idea during the show, but then afterwards said that he would give Sonata a title match since Sonata made the save for him at Wrestle Kingdom when Evil did a run-in. When it comes to that match, I'm honestly not. I'm like so-so about it. Like the thing about this match is that it's gonna be it just sounds like it's a rivalry to sort of um keep things going in a lesser important time of the year. But I'm also just not really that interested in seeing Sonata in another main event right now. I just want to see Naito versus someone else because Sonata, we saw, 2/3 of a year of him as champion. And by the time it was over at Wrestle Kingdom, I was like, you know what? I'm ready for it to be over. And, with it continuing with another main event here, albeit with him not as champion this time, but still another main event title match with him. I'm a little out of steam when it comes to that. But like I said, it's coming as part of a not too important time of the year, and it's just gonna be a main event for one of the shows later this month, likely. One thing to note about this match, which I thought was cool, was Taka Michinoku, who we rarely see winning matches, was able to score the pin for just five guys in this match. I think he pinned Bushi to score the win. So we got a Taka Michinoku pinfall victory in this one. Match before that, we saw Bullet Club War Dogs. That's Alex Coughlin, Clark Connors, David Finlay, Drill Maloney, and Gabe Kidd face United Empires, Francesco Akira, TJP, Hanare, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay. This was a match which well, it was less of a match and more of a brawl because the match was thrown away after 5 minutes, and it just became this brawl all around the venue. Um, this was like a very sort of fanfare type match where they were just sort of doing chaotic stuff that you rarely see in New Japan just for the sake of sort of showing you that, in my opinion. Um, like Gabe Kidd Something busted him open, or whether it was intentional or not, he had a full face full of blood. It was this whole dramatic thing. Afterwards, Will Ospreay cut this promo saying that obviously he's leaving New Japan next month, and to sort of before his departure, he wants to do a big match between United Empire and Bullet Club War Dogs, and he wants it to be like a 5 versus 5 cage match. Uh, some people I think might not be too big on this, but I think this is a fun little stipulation. Obviously, it's not the type of big singles match that everyone loves from Will Ospreay, but uh, you know, War Dogs are this really chaotic faction, and they bring so much like rebellion sort of to the New Japan product. So I think this is a great sort of situation to put them in, putting them in a 5v5 cage match like this, where there's probably also going to be weapons and stuff. It's gonna probably be uh, a very like hardcore leaning match. Uh, so yeah, that was interesting. I thought that was like a decent part of the card. One thing that I thought was sort of a small observation was that TJP he did not come out as his alter ego, the Aswang, in this match. So I assume that's gonna be something similar to like Finn Balor's Demon, where he only utilizes it in those big moments. Possibly that the mask he got designed for that character is absolutely killer. But he did missed someone during the match. I think he missed it. I think he missed David Finlay, and so maybe it's like something with the character where it can like come out mid-match or something or whatever. But um, I you know I TJP, he's not someone who has a lot of fans online and stuff, or he gets like mixed opinions. I think, but I'm totally on board with this new character he has. I think it's a totally a cool look. In the match before then, we had Evil hinting that he's going to be next in line to challenge Tama Tonga's Never Openweight Championship. Uh, House of Torture lost a match to this sort of mishmash of characters in a 12-man tag match. When it was announced it was a 12-man tag match, that got like a pop from the crowd because you rarely hear about a match of that size. Togi Makabe, Tomoaki Hanma, El Desperado, Master Wato, Shota Umino, and Tama Tonga. They beat Dick Togo, Evil, Ren Narita, Sho, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Yujiro Takahashi. So yeah, House of Torture in typical House of Torture fashion had a beat down on this team afterward, and Evil called for a match against Tama Tonga. So uh, this is the first of 3 parts in this card at the very start, where my reaction to all of it is just sort of like a shrug. Like I'm just not very enthusiastic about all this. Uh, Evil in singles matches, I'm not huge on. I don't think a lot of people are. I think he gets a very negative reception online. But if you listen to my previous audio podcast, you will hear that I said that my New Year's resolution is to keep Evil out of the main event title picture. And this does that. So it's not a huge deal. If there's one negative thing, it's that Tama Tonga is likely going to drop the belt in this match against Evil because he said at Wrestle Kingdom that he is going into his last month with New Japan because he's gonna stop working Japan dates. He says he's spent too much time away from his family and stuff like that, and this month is his last with the promotion. So it's gonna be interesting to see like when this match happens and like if Evil's gonna win the title off him, and I would assume that's likely the case. Earlier in the card, we had El Phantasmo and Hikuleo, who are the IWGP heavyweight and also the strong openweight tag team champions. They held the strong openweight championships heading into the year, and then at Wrestle Kingdom they captured the other belts as well. They just beat a young lion combo of Oscar Loibe and Yuto Nakashima. But after the match, Chase Owens of Bullet Club did a run in and challenged for their titles. Uh, this was a really weird like moment of the night. So Chase Owens does this run in and attacks them and challenges for their belts. And he says that he's going to be challenging with Kenta. And my immediate reaction is like, okay, so Chase Owens made the flight to Japan for this run in angle, but Kenta didn't. Like it was just very weird. Like if you guys are going to challenge for the tag titles, why aren't both of you guys there? And further, why is the guy who lives in Japan, not there, but the guy who lives in the US there is just very, very odd in my opinion. And I'm just not interested in seeing um, Chase Owens and Kenta challenge for these belts. As much as I like Phantasmo and Hikuleo, I think that Kenta in ring wise has really been struggling over the past couple of years, really since he's come back to New Japan. And Chase Owens has never been too thrilling in the ring, so this is just not a match that appeals to me too much. One thing I thought that was fun in this match is it was announced that Oscar Loibe and Yuto Nakashima are heading on excursion. This was their send-off match. It's cool to give them a match against the champions before they go overseas. And I saw that Oscar Loibe has already been announced for dates in WXW, so that's gonna be cool. I'm really big on Oscar Loibe. Um, he's really tall but also speedy. He almost like in the written version of this, I had a thing where I likened him to Hikuleo in the sense that he has that speed, but he also has that really big, tall, sort of not skinny but skinnier build compared to a lot of the other guys on the roster. Um, so, I'm really big on him. And uh, it's funny if you follow Oscar Loibe on social media, you'll see him and Yuto hang out a lot, and they sort of have this friendship, which is fun to watch. So I'm hoping that wherever they go on excursion, they'll be going to the same place. I think it was like hinted at that on commentary, but it wasn't necessarily like um confirmed. I don't know. And I haven't necessarily seen. I only saw the Oscar Loibe thing in passing just on my timeline today. I don't know necessarily if Yuto Nakashima has been announced for going anywhere. First match of the card, Hiroshi Tanahashi defended his New Japan World Television Championship match against his television championship against Ryusuke Taguchi. This was just kind of a nothing match. It was just like a fun thing where Taguchi was announced to face Tanahashi, and then, well in the ring, he said, since it's since it's New Year Dash, can you up the stakes and make this a title match? And he agreed, and that's how it sort of came about. Tanahashi won via roll up, the same way he beat Zack Sabre Jr. the night before. So I'm curious if that's going to be like his thing during his run with the title, since he's done it on two consecutive nights. After the match, former WWE wrestler and UFC fighter Matt Riddle called him out via video package. This is going to be obviously, I mean, it is already a controversial thing having Matt Riddle in New Japan after his WWE run. I mean, listen, he is someone who it's undeniable that he is coming into New Japan with baggage. In 2020, he was accused of sexual assault. In 2022, numerous other women accused him of being abusive. And some might say, oh, well, the 2020 accusation was a filed lawsuit that was later dropped. But it's also worth noting that, sexual assault, along with other domestic disputes, historically have been hard to challenge in courtrooms. Because of this, there's going to be folks who are not comfortable with having Riddle in New Japan. While looking online can only ever represent like a fraction of a fan base, from what I've seen, a lot of people are not happy about this. And when someone joining a promotion causes like this much of a stir, especially for all the wrong reasons, it's hard to want that. Like this is not someone who is controversial because he has heel heat or he's been heard to have like a bad ego backstage or something. This is someone who has serious concerning allegations put against him in the past. And while it won't bother some, it'll certainly give some of the audience pause. So that was the first match of the night, and I guess we've ran through the whole card there. I have a couple things to touch on before we get out of here. One thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about the United Empire versus War Dogs match, there was some comment made by Will Ospreay that he was that his match in February is going to be his last match in New Japan, and I think some people sort of perceive that as him saying like last match in New Japan ever. I did not see that as what he was trying to say. I think that, it's been outlined since he signed with AEW that he is someone who is going to be in AEW, but he is going to be lent out to New Japan on a, you know, part-time, like not part-time, but like he will do dates in New Japan throughout the year, like you see with other AEW talents like John Moxley or Bryan Danielson, for example. Um, I think he was just trying to say that that was the last one on his New Japan contract because when he went to AEW at Wrestle Dream in October, he was or was it October? Anyways, when he went to AEW and announced his signing with AEW, he was very much stressing the fact that he needs to finish up his commitments with New Japan before he can actually be on the AEW roster. So these dates and that February date that was mentioned before very much part of those commitments. A couple more things before we go. Just some news details that were announced. I have the full lineup here for New Japan's Battle in the Valley card, which is going to be on the 13th, so next weekend. I'm going to run down to here. This is a long card, so I assume this is probably going to be quite a lengthy show. In my like, it just seems like it, especially when you look at how quality some of these matches are and how much time some of these matches will presumably get. So we're gonna go from the bottom up here. We have Matt Vandegrift versus Goldie. We have a women's match, which I think could be really interesting. Viva Van versus Stephanie Vicker. Six-man tag match: Jacob Fatu, Fred Rosser, and Shota Umino versus Tom Lawler, Jarrell Nelson, and Royce Isaacs. Mascara Dorada and Volador Jr. versus Rocky Romero and Soberano Jr. TJP in a singles match against David Finlay. The strong tag belts are going to be on the line with Hikuleo and El Phantasmo facing like a combination of two Bullet Club War Dogs teams put together in Clark Connors and Alex Coughlin, and that's allowed since it's an open weight belt, not a junior or heavyweight belt. Um, in a singles match, we have Julia versus Trish Adora for the strong women's belt. Every time Julia is in the U.S., she just comes off as like a star, so it's gonna be interesting to see um, how it goes there. Matt Riddle, presumably making his New Japan debut. I guess it would be since it's next week. He has a mystery teammate, and he's facing Zack Sabre Jr. and Bad Dude Tito, the almost long lost member of TMDK. Eddie Kingston is going to be putting his Continental Crown Championship, which is his the New Japan, Ring of Honor, and AEW belts all combined into to one uh, against Gabe Kidd. Shingo Takagi is going to face John Moxley one-on-one, and in the main event, uh, a great match. I mean, they faced off so many times before, but it should still be one that will probably move some tickets alone. It's Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay. New Japan also announced today many of their top events for 2024. I'm not going to go through all of them because a lot of these are kind of expected, like where you'd expect them to go for certain dates. One thing I did want to point out though that I find interesting is on April 14th they're going to be going to Taipei for an event, and that's specifically interesting to me because they announced this on their site, announced this partnership with many different promotions around Asia recently. Um, and I'm curious, New Japan, when it comes to outside of Japan stuff, their focus has always been extremely strong on the US and then a little bit on the UK, but you've never really seen that focus on countries just in Asia around Japan. So with this new partnership that they've announced, it's gonna be interesting to see, like, is that going to be something they focus on more in 2024, and how will that manifest? They mentioned, sharing talent and stuff like that, but will they be holding events in other countries more often? That's definitely gonna be something that I'm gonna be looking out for in the 2024 New Japan schedule. Anyways, this was my quick rundown on the New Japan New Year Dash 2024 card. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to do more podcasts like these in the future. And I hope you guys like the solo format. We had a guest on in the previous one with Joseph Cacharo. When you do quick reaction pods like this, it's not easy to necessarily find a guest and nail down a time and stuff like that. And in the future for these podcasts, I do want to make it something where it's like um, put out like the same day as an event happens. This was sort of a test run, so it's on a bit more of a delay. But it would be fun to see, like, similar to like a big inspiration for this podcast is I listen to the Raptors show on Sportsnet with Will Liu, and he does this thing after every Raptors game where it's just like a 20-30 minute rundown of his notes and like his thoughts on the game, and it always comes out like that same evening. And I think it would be cool to have something like this, which is very much modeled after that, where we can have the quick thoughts on cards the same day, just quick solo show. So if you enjoyed this, if you didn't enjoy it, whatever your thoughts are, let me know them, and we can go from there and make those tweaks and make this the best possible audio version of Time Limit that you guys would want. So again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon.